This is the Rabbit R1. It's a pocketable AI assistant or some type of gadget. And I think I hate this thing. I hate its scroll wheel that can barely move around properly to let me access this crummy interface. I hate the fact that its battery life just evaporates for apparently no reason. I could just look at it go down. And I hate that it costs $199 and does practically nothing. It's a device built entirely around the dreams and promises of AI, like the humane AI pin before it. But just like that device, I also think it's a complete waste of money. The R1's big selling point was its large action model, or LAM, which was supposed to be able to understand what you're asking it with natural language and just get tasks done. But really, that's just marketing speak. At the moment though, this thing can barely do anything, and the few tasks it can accomplish are faster and easier to do on your phone or computer. So really, what is the point of this thing exactly? Now I'll admit, the Rabbit does look interesting. I remember when it debuted before CES, everybody was just saying, it looks really cute, and of course it does. It's designed by Teenage Engineering, they did the Playdate, they do a lot of synthesizers, and really anything that design outfit does, I think is really compelling and just cool to look at. So yeah, this is a cool looking device, except it's far cheaper. It's made out of cheap feeling plastic. It's really glossy. It feels more like a kid's toy than a $200 piece of electronics. So let's go over the hardware real quick. I think the main thing you'll notice is the scroll wheel right here. It's kind of cute. There's an accept button on the side, a small speaker in the back, a 2.8-inch-ish tiny screen here, which is actually a touchscreen, but you can't touch it for most of the interface. You have to use the scroll wheel. And that's it. That's pretty much this device. There's also a camera. They're calling it the 360i. It's a camera that sits up here in the top, and you can enable it. It flips back. It can flip towards you to take computer vision photos. It can't actually take photos that you want to save and use. It's just meant for AI stuff, but it's kind of a cool implementation of a camera, I guess. I think the 360i may be the most compelling aspect of this thing. You could take a picture of a document and ask it to summarize it, and it'll use an AI model to do what ChatGPT and other things do. So I pointed it at my review for this product and had it talk about how terrible it was. You can also point it at images and objects and have it describe those things too, which is kind of cool, but again, I don't know why I would do that on a separate device. Beyond its cute looks though, I think the Rabbit R1 is mostly a failure. Take the scroll bar for one. It feels okay, but the way it interacts with the actual menu and the screens doesn't really feel natural or organic. It's often moving too slow. If you scroll quickly, it does speed up a little bit, but it never feels like it's keeping up with me as a user. But what makes it really annoying is that I can't just use the touch screen. If you turn the device on its side, it does work as a touch screen, but there it gives you a tiny little keyboard, which you can use for a terminal to ask the AI model questions or enter text when you need to for like a Wi-Fi password. But it's also the world's tiniest keyboard, so even that is kind of a pain. I think the more I used the Rabbit R1, the more it just slowly drove me insane. Sure, you can play music from Spotify on it if you have a Spotify paid account, but who cares? What are you going to do with this 2-watt speaker? Great, I'm enjoying Radiohead now. Love it. You can pair Bluetooth headphones to it, but why would you do that instead of just using your phone? It can generate Midjourney art for you, again with a paid account, but what am I going to do with it here? The only way I can interact with those photos and share them with people or edit them further is by going to my phone or my computer, an actual functional device, and dealing with them there. So again, doesn't make much sense on this device. You're supposed to be able to order Uber taxis easily from the Rabbit R1, but it seems like that service just doesn't work at all.
Uber may take a while to load on Rabbit OS and may not be available in all regions. Apologies. There was an issue with the Uber service.
When you launch it, it says that Uber may be slow to load. It does give you a lot of warnings about how slow the overall interface is. It also says Uber may not be available in all territories, but I've asked Rabbit R1 testers in other cities, and they're having the same issues. When I asked the company about this, they said that the large action model really depends on what the service providers allowed, so it could be that Uber did something to its website that just stopped working with the Rabbit R1, and Rabbit may not be fully admitting that just yet. But really, this device is dependent on all of these services. If DoorDash makes a change, that app is going to stop working on here. If Spotify changes the way logins work, it's going to stop working here. So I don't know, again, why you would want this thing. At least the Rabbit R1 was able to get me a sandwich, but even that process was kind of insane. When I asked it to order lunch, it brought up the DoorDash service, which I linked on the Rabbit Hole website, which is where you kind of manage all the settings. And it came back maybe a full minute later with 3 restaurants. 2 I had never heard of, and 1 was a local Henry's Bakery. So again, that's strange, not much choice there. I chose the Henry's Bakery because I know they have good sandwiches. I went in and picked some sandwiches I liked, but you can only select them on the Rabbit's tiny screen. You can't customize them, you can't do anything to the sandwich like remove cheese, and it only showed me 6 menu items. And I know Henry's has a huge menu because I could go to Grubhub or DoorDash and see it all on my phone. So again, that's really weird. Once I added the sandwiches to the R1, I hit the order button and it never confirmed payment, it never confirmed the delivery address. It was just working entirely based on my DoorDash defaults, I guess. And luckily the sandwiches arrived, so I guess those were just fine. But I really had to go back to my phone to do anything useful for this order. So yeah, my sandwiches eventually arrived, and I guess good job, Rabbit. But I was more struck by just the many ways things could have gone wrong. This isn't 1999. I'm not impressed I can be able to buy food online anymore like I did from Cosmo.com. It just made the whole process of buying food online more anxiety-inducing and not less. So again, the Rabbit is supposed to be a calmer and gentler way to engage with the internet compared to your phone, except it's giving me less information. To me, that gives me more anxiety. While I could use the Rabbit to record and summarize meetings, that's something, again, several apps on my phone can already do. That's a device I have with me at all times. It also has better microphones than the Rabbit. The on-demand translation feature is kind of cool. It seemed to work fine going between English and Japanese and English and Spanish, but Google Translate can do that, ChatGPT can do that, so it's really nothing special here. All of this leads me to ask, what is the point of the Rabbit R1? It can't replace your phone because it doesn't take calls, it doesn't deal with messages, you can't put a SIM card in it, but that just makes this device more expensive and it'll just be more useless on the go, rather than just around Wi-Fi networks. Maybe you could argue that it'll be a cool companion device for your phone, and even then I find that to be hard to believe because it's slow and annoying to use and it's just frustrating. It doesn't make me feel like I'm actually separated from my phone, it doesn't actually calm me or help me in any way. It just gives me another layer of frustration that I have to live with in daily life, right? It's another device you have to charge and carry and worry about alongside your phone. For what reason? There really isn't any. And if you suffer from battery anxiety, you definitely should stay away from the Rabbit R1. When I first got it, it would burn through its battery in about 4 hours. I could just sit there and watch the battery tick down. Rabbit just recently released the first major update for this thing, which helped a little bit. I think it can last up to 8 hours now, but that's still not a full day of use. And most of the time, the Rabbit is just sitting on my counter, not doing anything. So I really have no idea what is sucking up all the battery life from this machine. So here's my advice. Don't buy the Rabbit R1, and really don't buy any AI gadget at this point. What we've seen is that relying on AI entirely as your user interface mechanism and building an entire device around it is just kind of a recipe for disaster. Just look at the Humane AI pin. It also doesn't make much sense when our phones do all of these things pretty well, and from what we're hearing, iOS and Android are going to be getting even more AI features down the line. So, you know what? Stick with the device you already have. Check out our channel for more reviews of AI hardware like the Humane AI pin, and if you dug this video, be sure to like and subscribe.